Hey everybody, this is Nate coming to you from Palen Music Center down in Springfield, Missouri. And with me today is my new friend, Mr. Joe Glaser.
Nice to be here, Nate.
Thank you for coming. So Joe, if you don't know Joe, is one of the world's most leading authorities when it comes to guitar repair, as well as innovations to the guitar, the Glaser B-Bender, as well as the Plek machine, which is what we're going to talk about today. You know, as we've gotten more into the higher-end guitar market, boutique guitars, which that's something I'm super excited about. I know you are too. I love guitar, and that's, you know, why we're here. You don't go too far down that road until you run into Joe. And we knew as we began to approach that and to embrace that market more, we needed to have a Plek machine. And so Brett Palen reached out to Joe, and now Joe is here, and we are installing our Plek machine and getting trained on it. But for those of you who don't know, Joe, could you tell us just a little bit about you, and then also the Plek organization and what a Plek machine does, what it is, and just take it away.
I've been doing guitar work for pretty much 50 years.
Wow.
I wasted a perfectly good college education by getting involved playing music. I'm a steel player, recovered pedal steel player. I played for a living, but I was never great. So it was easy to realize that that my opportunity was probably other things around the music business. I grew up like a lot of kids, fascinated by music. And I quickly realized in bands that the guitar players struggled with things about their guitars that they did not know how to deal with, and they didn't really know somebody who knew how to deal with it. I moved to Nashville to build. I got interested in building. In my Silicon Valley gig, I made sure that I learned how to I worked in the machine shop when they needed somebody, and I took over the painting gig when claiming to be a painter when the painter quit, and all that stuff. I did cabinet making to try to get the background chops to do guitar building, pre-internet obviously, pre-YouTube. And I moved to Nashville with little or no idea of how any of this stuff was done, and just learned by watching, and
That's
learned
awesome.
by looking at instruments and measuring everything, and trying to figure out what the system was. And fairly early on realized that there was no system, that there was no common thing, and fairly early on stumbled on a few things that made me convinced, as a guy with a semi-science engineering background and as a Missourian, which I am.
Hey.
You know, the show me state.
Yeah.
That there was a lot of stuff that wasn't proven, and that kind of started to give me the confidence to go out and create things that seemed like they needed to happen.
That's really cool. So what does the Plek machine do? And maybe in that same conversation, how does that service exist with, you know, the luthier's touch, the human part of it?
Can I grab a guitar and pull it over here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Joe's grabbing guitars.
What we've learned over time is, and a lot of this is from explaining, getting to talk about this. So what the Plek does is it works on the frets, on the fret plane. You know, the fingerboard and the fret plane are very similar. The fret plane is the surface of the frets that is more or less the same as the fingerboard, but the frets get pushed in, and they might be high and low here, or they might be worn out in a place. The string, when you're not touching it, it's straight, and when you hit it, it creates sort of an ellipse, kind of like a jump rope. And that, when you're playing, that shape is going to hit the fret above where you're playing, more or less, depending on that fret plane. What the Plek does is it provides the optimum fret surface, that fret plane, which is traditionally done with files or a block with sandpaper on it. This is 100 and something pounds of string pressure. And this neck is a piece of wood, it's a muscle. It's non-uniform. It might be cut from any kind of angle in the tree. It's going to behave different than the exact next guitar made out of the same board by the same company. So no two necks are the same. So frets are put in, they're leveled the best they can be, and that's done without strings on it or with some kind of system that isn't taking into account string tension. What the Plek did was it created a super accurate way of doing the frets as a unit, as a fret plane, but based on scanning the guitar under string tension, under that 120, 140 pounds of string tension, that when released, it remembered. And so it could kind of, you take the string side, process the frets, get them perfect, string it back up to tension, and it would have the contour you wanted. The contour turns out not to be simple. It's kind of a sine wave, it's kind of an ellipse, but it very much is that note, it's the shape of that note. To that end, the string is the ultimate judge of whether the frets are level. The string is the customer. What I tell people, the string's the customer.
Wow.
You make the string happy, you make the player happy. You make the player happy, you make the repair guy or the manufacturer happy, and then the whole world's happy. So this surface, this fret surface, has to be very accurate, and it has to be this one shape, and it doesn't matter whether it's classical strings or bass strings or ukulele strings, they all function the same way. The only string that doesn't function that same way is a broken one or a bent one.
So I want to make sure I understand and repeat that back. I want to make sure you're tracking with me. So at tension, the guitar, the surface, the playing surface of the guitar is measured. And the Plek knows I'm going to call it an ellipse, but to your point, it's like a wave meets an ellipse, sort of as the string is vibrating. So as the string is vibrating over that surface, it's going to hit the frets in not a uniform way. It's going to be different all up and down the neck.
It's kind of a curve.
Yep. And so to that point too is that what that piece of wood, the neck, does at full tension is not going to be consistent from guitar to guitar. So you put your, let's say you had 3 strats and you put strat number 1 in there, even though they may all have the same style of neck, the same blah, 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 doesn't matter. It's a piece of wood. And at tension, the Plek measures it and gives you this optimal playing experience by adjusting the frets, right?
It does what's called dressing the frets. It takes a tiny bit off. In the case of the Plek, you can dial in so closely that the frets you don't really want to touch. You want to get rid of the high spots. Like if this fret's really high, it's going to buzz on the fret below it. You want to get rid of that. The ones that you don't want to touch, you can literally kiss. You can take a 1/10 of a 1,000th of an inch off. This is 10,000ths of an inch, by the way. So
the high E?
Yeah, so you can take 100th of that off, or you can get it down into tremendously fine increments. So you can get in there and do just exactly what you want and nothing more, and you can address it to the string set of the player and the player style, or the basic setups, say the whole line of Taylor. Taylor has a recommended setup. You can say, okay, we're going to do all our Taylors to factory spec. And you can end up taking off any issues but nothing else. So the absolute bare minimum.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
This has been a game changer for us, and we're just proud to know you.
Likewise.
Absolutely.
It's great. This is a great place. This is a semi-known secret outside of Missouri, but this is a really impressive facility.
Well, thank you. Thanks for helping us get the word out. And if you have any questions about getting your guitar Pleked or just what the next step is, feel free. You can give us a call at 417-882-7006, or you can go on our website and we'll chat with you about that too. We're happy to help. Joe, it's an honor to have you here. We'll see you guys soon.